President Buhari meets PTF members on the way forward for the nation. Global Day of Parents in COVID-19 era in focus. Plus, more enlightenment on hand washing culture. Welcome to Nation Panorama. I'm Ruth Aguele. Thank you for joining us. President Muhammadu Buhari on Sunday engaged members of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 on further measures to contain the pandemic as the 2 weeks extension of the ease of lockdown ends today, that is Monday. The chairman of the task force and secretary to the government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, led members to the meeting where figures reveal that most segments of the economy may reopen as the battle against the uncommon health challenge rages on. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has more.
Members of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 were in the State House to submit their 4th interim report as the nation intensifies efforts at controlling and containing the coronavirus pandemic. At the interactive engagement, President Muhammadu Buhari and the PTF delegation appraised the progress achieved in the last 2 weeks, challenges encountered, as well as available options on the best way forward.
As far as the work of the PTF is concerned, he was upfront with his commendation, and he assured us that the nation is fully behind us in the work that he has charged us to do. And he is also appreciative of the work of the frontline workers. And we also discussed the issues of compliance. And he said we should continue to appeal to Nigerians and drive home the point that it is a personal responsibility.
Is Nigeria winning this fight against COVID-19?
We are winning. We are winning. As a matter of fact, you just suppose the rate of cases with our fatality rates, which is basically about 3%. Other countries and other climes is over 10%. We've not reached the peak yet. And I wouldn't want to fool Nigerians by telling them that we are out of the woods. No, we are not out of the woods. As we even open up and accommodate more enterprises, because we are trying to have a balance between livelihoods and lives. There's a likelihood of the increase in cases, but that should not be a source of despair.
Although Nigeria now has close to 10,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19 and nearly 300 fatalities, some states are yet to be in tune with the reality of the situation. Apart from failing to cooperate with the NCDC as regards the containment drive, worship centers have also been reopened by some of them contrary to the social distancing protocol.
That's part of what we have considered in its totality. I would await Mr. President's decision on that once I receive his approval going forward as to certain recommendations that we have put in place. But I can assure you about one thing, that the ownership of the next phase will be the responsibility of the states under national supervision and coordination. And it is very, very important we realize that no state can be an island unto itself. When you deal with public health matters, whatever happens in a particular locality has the consequences of spilling off to other constituencies. And that is the message that we continue to drive in our pursuit of getting everybody to be on board.
As the 2 weeks extension of the ease of COVID-19 lockdown ends on Monday, indications are that most segments of the nation's economy will be reopened.
After we receive Mr. President's approval, we will now know which segment of the economy he has allowed to open.
Nigeria recorded her first index case of coronavirus on February 27, 2020. And since then, President Muhammadu Buhari, who is the champion of COVID-19 in West Africa and adjudged a role model for other nations by the World Health Organization, had addressed the nation 3 times. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
And more update on COVID-19 as at Sunday, 31st May 2020, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control has announced 307 new cases of COVID-19 in the country, bringing the number of confirmed cases to 10,162. Of the 307 new cases, Lagos has 188, FCT 44, Ogun 19, Kaduna 14, Oyo 12, Bayelsa 9, while Gombe recorded 5 cases. Kano and Delta have 3 new cases each. Imo, Rivers, Niger and Bauchi has 2 cases each, while Plateau and Kwara has 1 case each. Lagos still tops the COVID-19 cases chart table with 4,943 cases, followed by Kano with 954 cases and the FCT with 660 cases. 3,007 patients who recovered have been discharged, with 287 deaths recorded so far. Well, for the federal government to thrive in its fight against the COVID-19, efforts must be channeled towards assisting all states of the Federation in combating the disease. This is the position of the Cross River State government as the state gives update on its COVID-19 status. Let's hear from Justina Etem.
Despite the rising case of COVID-19 in the country, Cross River State remains the only state yet to report any confirmed case of the disease.
As a state at this point, we want to clearly say we've fought a good fight. We have run our race that distributed 5,300 PPEs in January.
The commissioner believes that if the federal government gives more assistance to the states, there will be the ability to meet its requirements in the area of testing, surveillance, and more. In Calabar, Justina Etem, NTA News.
And in a way, to underscore the need for corporate organizations to make their impact felt in their areas of operation, the Imo State Governor, Hope Uzodinma, has stressed the importance of private sector partnership with the state government in the fight against COVID-19. He stated this at the inauguration of a COVID-19 isolation and treatment center in Oulu local government area in the state, donated to the state government by Access Bank PLC. Bright Bocho has more.
COVID-19 Isolation and Treatment Center, equipped and donated by Access Bank PLC as part of their corporate social responsibility, is in support of the Imo State government effort at combating COVID-19. Governor Hope Uzodinma, while inaugurating the Isolation and Treatment Center, appeals to other private institutions to take a cue from the noble gesture, stating that the center, apart from handling COVID-19 related issues, will also take care of other infectious diseases in the state. He further states that as a result of the measures put in place to prevent the spread of the virus, Imo State has not recorded any casualty, but however noted that there is need for sustained effort.
For the past 4 months, we've been battling to ensure that Imo State is prepared to not only prevent this deadly virus from coming into Imo State, but also to prepare in the event it comes in to tackle the deadly monster.
Some staff of the bank witnessed the inauguration of the isolation center situated at the Imo State Teaching Hospital, Olo, Inowere. Bright Ebuchu, NTA News.
As part of efforts to increase the capacity of Kano State government in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic, a philanthropist has donated a more sophisticated COVID-19 testing machine. The equipment, Gene Expert, presented to the Bayero University Center for Infectious Disease Research, is adjudged by experts to be faster and easier to operate. Lawal Salau Inua reports.
The donation of the medical equipment to the Bayero University Center for Infectious Disease Research, which was accredited by NCDC earlier in May this year to complement the existing COVID-19 testing centers in the state, is seen by many as the right step in the right direction. Receiving the items on behalf of the center, the Vice Chancellor of the University, Professor Ihuza Bello, appreciated the gesture, saying the machine will accelerate the success of the state in stemming the spread of the highly contagious disease.
Other advantage of the machine, as being explained by experts, is that it can be used to test for other infectious diseases such as TB. So it will be very useful to the teaching hospital, to the Center for Researches into Infectious Diseases, not only COVID-19, but other types of infectious diseases.
This new machine can do 40 in a day. So when we put it side by our 270 test capacity, it is over 300 in a day. At least it is a step in the right direction, although we are still working towards increasing the capacity of the lab to do much more tests.
Representative for the philanthropist Salus Ibrahim Balarabi, who commended the efforts of the workers at the front line, said the support was born out of desire to save humanity and rid the state of the pandemic. Lawal Sallau Inwa, NTA News.
The African Scholars Care Initiative, a non-governmental organization, has in a sequence of its impact on humanitarian activities amidst the coronavirus pandemic, reached out to children with Wash Your Hands campaign with the tag, Running Water is a Must. This awareness on hand-washing culture came along when the organization inaugurated a running water project to provide water for locals in Jahi community at LEA Primary School in the Federal Capital Territory here in Abuja. Let's hear from Justin Bam-Unye.
Wash your hands with soap under running water. This has been one out of the major tools advocated by professionals in the fight against the coronavirus disease. It is a culture expected to be imbibed by the adults and children to curb spread of the pandemic. Now, the NGO, African Scholars Care Initiative, has taken it upon itself to extend this awareness to the children, especially at this time of the year when they celebrated their day. The aim is to inculcate the culture of hand washing under running water at every given time, and this was in the light of provision of a multi-million naira water borehole at the LEA Primary School in Jahi, Abuja.
Medium to call for partnerships and support to this cause of running water is a must, so that the federal government can call back school children to school when all these modalities are put in place to help curb the spread.
And very soon schools will resume, and then everything gets back to normal, slowly but surely. I expect all school administrators to ensure that they have running water in their schools. Like a project like this is a very brilliant project. They can sink boreholes or even more boreholes and ensure that the children grow up to understand the importance of washing their hands. Hygiene, very important.
This awareness did not come bare, but with the distribution of palliatives to the children and the community. Foodstuffs alongside hand sanitizers, liquid soaps and other aid, including face masks, were distributed to strengthen protection in containing the novel coronavirus pandemic. African Scholars Care Initiative is an organization founded on the fundamentals of providing education, empowerment, and scholarship grants to African children amongst families and communities below average income earning, starting with Nigerians from across the 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria. In Abuja, Justin Bam-Unye, NTA News.
Once upon a time, many parents forbade their children and wards from using Android phones for fear of abuse and access to censored materials on the internet. Well, today, no thanks to COVID-19, utilizing that same technology is fast becoming the new normal for teaching and learning. Onenge Fineface examined some aspects of this trend, bordering on access, impact, and opportunities.
These dead leaves once blossomed as sprouting evidence of hard work. It's a student agriculture project abandoned and dead. COVID-19 has forced its owner and occupants of these seats home. Even the library now needs a little bit of noise, just as classrooms yearn for students. Godfrey Wogu, a security guard in a school, now understands better the pleasure of disturbance from children.
Everywhere is lonely. Here we are feeling lonely. We don't see anybody to talk with. We don't see children to play with. Honestly, I am not happy for it.
COVID-19 has brought about a lot of changes in school affairs, in school running, in school activities. Like I advise a parent that will you please drop the phone for your son. This same parent, like 3 months ago, that I told not to buy a phone for the child. It's exactly a paradox, but now we don't have a choice.
Schools have now moved to homes. Anthony Igbagri, a parent, doubles as a teacher.
It hasn't been easy either, because we as parents at home, we also need to buy data for our children to use the internet to answer their questions.
I like it because they used to send me questions. There are 20 questions. That's 100 points, 20 questions for me to answer. So anytime I fail, they just give me corrections. So I can revise them back, searching on the web again.
Students, though, still prefer the ambience of a classroom.
Unlike school, it is interactive and fun and easy learning. But now, the teachers send assignment, and it doesn't make us learn faster.
Because that one I'm interactive, I can ask the teacher and say, is this one, is it like this? Am I supposed to be like this? I can ask the teacher. But at home now, I can't ask the teacher anything.
Though the leaves of this agric project are dead, those in the school farm struggle to grow amid weeds. And Godfrey remains optimistic that the lost willpower of these buses will regain life to drive his students back to school when the virus is contained. Onengiye Fine Face, NTA News.
Well, following that report on children, well, Global Day of Parents is a day we know set aside to recognize the role of parents in caring for and teaching their children and to promote principles of good parenting worldwide, irrespective of ethno-religious inclination. Well, joining me via Zoom to discuss the role of parents in supporting children's education, especially in this COVID-19 era of challenges we're facing worldwide, is an education specialist from UNICEF, for Southwest, Dr. Murtala Mohammed. Thank you very much for joining us on Panorama.
Thank you.
All right. As an education expert and a parent, I'm sure you're one. How would you assess the role of parents in modeling their children?
I think this is a very important moment to reflect, most especially in relation to current situation in Panorama, the COVID-19 challenge, and the children were sent back from school to their parents to take care of them in terms of teaching and learning. So parents need to play a very important role here. One, by assisting the children to get the gadget that is required for learning, like the smartphone, radio in some states, and also the access to television and access to internet. We strongly believe, even though there are some hard-to-reach communities and villages that does not have access to internet, but it is very important for parents to provide access to the gadget, because learning, there's no way learning will take place without the gadgets. So the government are doing their best to ensure that there's a learning program through television, learning program through radio, and also a learning a kind of program through other form of gadgets that are available to children. What is required is parental support. But it's quite unfortunate in some communities and in some states, we have good number of parents that are not even literate. So when the parents are not literate to even operate the gadget, that becomes a big challenge.
All right. Would you say there are any, hindrances hampering the performance of development of children, especially in this part of the world, considering the global cultural interference, which seems to be affecting African culture and tradition?
Yeah, I would strongly agree that there are some cultural factors that may likely hinder access to internet and gadgets, because some parents might think it's too early for a child at the age of 15, at the age of 10, at the age of 11, to internet. Require these guidance and we're missing. So whether we like it or not, but what we're saying is they need support, they need guidance, they need guidance, an actor. They should be able to know what to do.
Dr. Murtala Mohammed Adogi, your signal is quite poor. We can't really pick what you're saying. If we can reconnect clearly, we'll do that. But let's take a break. You're watching Panorama. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Thanks for staying tuned. The Buhari Support Organization Southeast has commended President Muhammadu Buhari for signing into law the financial autonomy of state houses of assembly and judiciary using the Executive Order 10. The organization, in a statement after a virtual meeting in Enugu, maintained that Executive Order 10 has set the stage for genuine development at the local level. The Buhari Support Organization noted that the doctrine of true federalism is better served and indeed actualized when there is independent legislature and judiciary at the state level. It further explained that the first-line charge funding of state legislatures and judiciary will in the long run be a win-win situation for the collective good of strengthening institutions at all levels of government. Panorama will be back shortly. Stay tuned. Public analysts say being responsible is what makes leadership accountable and outstanding. The Nigerian economy under the present administration, experts say, has been on a steady growth trajectory. Correspondent Chimobi Walter in Nanji takes a look at the major economic highlights of the Buhari administration.
The administration entered with so much enthusiasm on ways to deliver on its change mantra, especially on the economy, which at the time was slipping into recession. The economic team put together by the administration came up with a blueprint aimed at serving as a short-term plan to reposition the economy for growth. Reviewing the implementation of the plan, which is expiring by December 2020, economic experts say it has seen the country's GDP remain on a positive growth from the fourth quarter of 2017 to the end of first quarter of 2020, despite the ravaging coronavirus pandemic.
You know, the ERGP was formulated as a sort of a medium-term plan, 2017 to 2020, isn't it? Yes. And it addressed several sectors, about 5 sectors. So, and of course, in most planning, it has to be costed. And so they have to bring in private sector angle too, to participate. So that's why the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. You know, the federal government is also putting its own fund, but they expected a lot of private sector participation. And there's been a tremendous interest shown by the private sector investors from abroad, from Nigeria and what have you.
We have consistently have growth in our GDP up to this last quarter that has just passed, and I think that is quite commendable. Growth may not have been as was expected because ARGP had looked at having a 7% growth. But the important thing is that the growth itself had been very, very consistent.
Respondents also believe that some of the economic policies like the border closure, return to the budget cycle from January to December, and central bank interventions in both manufacturing and agricultural sectors are pointers to the administration's strive to make the Nigerian economy the strongest in Africa and one of the leading economies in the world.
The border closure was another nice punch on the Nigerian economy, a punch that helped the economy to revive and also boosted the non-oil sector, like I talked about earlier. The closure of the border, as at that point, was important to halt the influx of goods that were banned. Another area that the government has actually really done well in the last 1 year is with monetary policy management. If you look at exchange rates that was pegged at 3.05 to a dollar last year was maintained.
You know that economic effects often take a lag. We will see the effects. Give it the lag time and the effects will begin to show up. But this time we still need to work hard. We still need to really dig our legs in the sand and try to put up our acts properly. We need, part of what we need to really do within the ARGP is to be innovative and creative.
With the assurance given by the presidential economic team to revamp the nation's economy, it is expected that by the end of the second tenure of the Buhari administration, Nigerians will heave a sigh of relief. In Abuja, I'm Chimubi Walter Naji, NT News.
And that's it on Panorama. We do appreciate your time. I'm Ruth Aguele. Bye.